Blog Talk Radio.
Hello out there, and a belated Merry Christmas to all of you. I am David Domzalski, founder of the Financial Bin and host of Financial Bin Radio. Now, before we begin tonight, I want to remind you that Entrepreneur Intervention is out, and I hope it was in your stocking for this Christmas. And if it wasn't, first you got to ask the people giving you gifts, why not? And secondly, you got to pick up a copy if you haven't done so already. It's at Amazon and CreateSpace in paperback, and it's also available in ebook version for just 99 cents now, down from $2.99 for your Kindle, Nook, and iPad. Hope you got one of those this Christmas. Now let me introduce you to tonight's guests. We have two tonight. Our first is Jeffrey Hayzlett, and our second is Jennifer Fleming. They will be joining us simultaneously. Jeffrey is a global business celebrity, social media expert, and author of Running the Gauntlet, which will be released on January 3rd of 2012. And Jennifer Fleming is from Tallgrass PR, and she is Jeffrey's PR director. So please join us in thanking them for joining the program, and I want to welcome you guys. Thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for having us. We're having a great time here. We're back home in South Dakota for a couple days.
Oh, excellent! That sounds lovely. I would love to make it out there sometime.
Well, we have a saying out here: we'll just keep the door open for you.
I like that. Very welcoming. Well, I guess I just want to start, guys. The first question I have for you, Jeff, is can you give me a brief account of your time leading up to the formation of the Hayzlett Group? Maybe just kind of focus on your time with Kodak.
Yeah, sure. I was the chief marketing officer of Eastman Kodak for about 4 years, from 2006 through 2010. Left in May of 2010 to form the Hayzlett Group to kind of get out on my own. I had promised them I'd stay for 2 years and ended up staying for 4 years. The average life of a chief marketing officer for Fortune 100, Fortune 200 companies is about 23 months, so we don't last long. But I'd always been in and out of business on my own. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've started many businesses, bought many businesses, sold them, and grown some and closed some of them down. Sometimes I even tried to build markets before I realized there wasn't one. So I've done all those kind of things. And when I left Kodak, I just started to write a book, which was my first book called The Mirror Test, and now have a second book out in January 3rd of this year. Of 2012, that's called Running the Gauntlet. So I've been out speaking and built up a small business of individuals who help companies grow fast. I mean, that's our major theme for what we do.
Absolutely. Well, I guess kind of going off of that, why did you decide to become an entrepreneur, speaker, and author? Combine all those three. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I talk a lot. Author thing came kind of late in life. The speaking I've been doing for a number of years is part of my evangelism for business growth, and just something I've always been doing. And people started to ask me, and got what I would consider fairly good at it, to the point where now I'm doing 150 or so a year. Even when I was as a chief marketing officer of C-Suite in a Fortune 100 company, I was doing quite a bit of it as well. The entrepreneur stuff, I've always been in businesses and been involved in business. I like running my own show. I don't typically like working in larger corporations as much, although I've done it and I've done it fairly well. But just not something I like to do, and I really wanted to get away on my own. The author thing came about because of a woman by the name of Wendy Keller. Wendy's a literary agent out in Malibu. The Keller Agency is the name of her company. And, 15 years ago when I was out on the speaker circuit back then, she kept saying, you got to write a book, you got to write a book. I was doing a program called How to Rip the Head Off Your Competition at the time, kind of a subtle marketing approach. And so she was after me to write a book for a long time, and then when I went to Kodak, she got back in touch and said, the time's to write it now, because I was helping to bring Kodak back on the map. They're not doing well today. Since the last 2 years I've been out of the company, they're not doing as well, but not that I was the reason for that. But at least while I was there, I raised their visibility greatly and enhanced their profile, and that's a lot of what I do in the growth companies that I work with. So she said, hey, Jeff, you really got to write the book. And so that's why I wrote the first book that became a runaway bestseller called The Mirror Test, and it was your business really breathing. And so it was to help entrepreneurs and guys on Wall Street as well. There's no difference between a business on Wall Street and a business on Main Street. The only number is the zeros behind the number. So that led me to write a book, and then I wasn't done writing that one, so I wrote the second one. So here I am 18 months later from publishing my first bestseller, and I've just come out hopefully with the second one.
Excellent. Well, I was reading somewhere that some call you a social media darling, and it's actually the way we kind of connected, and even made this podcast possible because we connected on Twitter.
What more can I tell you?
Exactly. So what is it about social media that is so crucial to today's entrepreneurs?
Well, it's great to be called a social media darling. It must be because I'm just so doggone good looking, I think, or something along those lines. No, it's just the fact that I've been one of the very few C-level executives who got it right away and started drinking the Kool-Aid and saw the potential of it. For me, whether you're a big business or you're a small business, it's a couple of things. The first of all, it's about being engaged with your customer, and I think that's probably the most important thing that you can look at. The second piece of it is that this is the greatest use of OPM, and if you're an entrepreneur, this is other people's money. OPM, other people's money, and you get to engage with customers, get to do business with customers, get closer to customers, get to listen to their ideas, get to educate them, they educate you. This is awesome, and why wouldn't you want to use this? It's a free tool. And I recently heard somebody talking about this, David, where they said they actually said relationships are the new thing. I'm going like, when did they stop being the new thing? And because it's just important to be in a great relationship with your customer, and this is what social media allows us to do.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. It's really what's helped me get started with my business to begin with. So maybe kind of transitioning a little bit here. I want to focus on your new book coming out on January 3rd, 2012, called Running the Gauntlet, and maybe to kind of focus the discussion a little bit. What are 3 things you want people to take out of your book, and then also does this kind of build off the mirror test?
Well, without question. The mirror test asks the right questions you need to face in order to make your business the success it needs to be, and so it was very much focused on a business owner and a manager, and this book is focused on not just those people, but also on everybody that works in the company and about driving change and what agents of change must do in order to make it happen, because it is a very difficult job. And in fact, I dedicate the beginning of the book to all those naysayers, opportunists, and sons of a gun out there who stand in your way. We will beat you, and this is really what it's about how to change the mood in the company and drive it. So the 3 things, if I knocked out 3 things, I think first of all, one is taking risk, and that's the big thing for most entrepreneurs, as we know, is taking risk. But for any business leader, it's about continuing to take risk and put that into a scenario in your business to take calculated risk is maybe a better word for it. But what happens if you make a mistake? Well, by and large, for most of what we're doing, no one's going to die. And so it's about creating the tension inside the company in order to take those risks and grow the business. Now, the second thing I think that I would take away from the book that I think would be major is around transparency, and to be able to be an open, healthy debate in your business at all times, to be willing to talk about anything and bring up any subject and have your team feel very open to do the same thing, to talk about the elephants in the room that we all know exist there, we see there, we're in meetings with them and we see it, but we don't talk about it, and it hangs around in your in your business for a couple of weeks before, and then it becomes a bigger and bigger elephant, a bigger problem. Well, you should have nipped it in the bud to begin with. And so by being more transparent, it makes you much more direct and much more open and much more, I think, trustworthy. And then the third thing I think is a really cool concept that we've come up with in the book, and a phenomenon that's been around for a while. We just put a new term to it. We all know about crowdsourcing, but what about friend sourcing? And I think that's a much more trusted way in which we gather information, and we're doing commerce. So what can you do as an entrepreneur to get more friends talking about you and friend source your product and services? So those are three unique things that people can take right out of the book of Running the Gauntlet that left off where the mirror test, stopped.
Wow, I like that concept of friend sourcing, kind of putting a new spin on that term. I mean, you can definitely, as an entrepreneur, that's where you got to go first. I would say friends and family. They're the, kind of make them have them be some evangelists.
I'm launching my book right now. Tonight I got letters going out to all my friends to ask them to help me out do some certain things. I mean, that's just what it's about, man. And
Excellent.
if you can't count on your friends, who the hell are you going to count on?
That's a good point. No, that's a very good point. What was the best piece of advice, Jeff, that you've ever received, and how have you kind of implemented that in the Hayzlett Group and your other engagements?
Yeah, I got by and far the best piece of advice I ever got from anyone about being a leader and being successful in business was to listen. And to just sit back as an owner, as a manager, as a leader, and to listen. Not speak, not pretend you know all the answers, but to listen to what people are saying. And I think that takes a real calculated leader to do that, because, you know, a lot of times we want to jump in and solve the problem, but if you can spend more time, you know, listening to your employees, to your customers, to your vendors, you can learn a heck of a lot, and I've learned that. In fact, you know, I put in the very first chief listening officer ever in a company, in a major company. Wow. That's how much I cared about listening, and that was for social media. You know, someone to act like an air traffic controller, you know, to watch the conversations that are going online and offline, and to be able to have a way of being able to route those conversations into sales, other conversations into product development, other conversations into customer service. So, you know, so I think listening is a very, very important portion of what we need to do.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, how are you supposed to know what to deliver to the customer if you don't listen to what they want and what they're asking for?
Exactly. And a lot of times they'll tell you how much, too.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now in doing research for this interview, Jeff, I noticed on your LinkedIn page that you're listed as a sometime cowboy. So what is it about the idea of the cowboy or the Midwest that's so crucial to the Hayzlett brand, and how can other business owners kind of use that concept?
Well, you got to brand is a couple things. First of all, brand is two things, and something we know out here in South Dakota very well. It's something you put on a horse or a cow, usually a cow, occasionally a horse. That's where the word brand came from. And then a brand is nothing but a promise delivered. So, you know, you can't be a cowboy unless you really are a cowboy, because that's not delivering on your promise. So it's part of who I am. I mean, it's what I like to do. In fact, I'm leaving this interview to go run a trap line later tonight. It'll be amazing. Here I am. I'm catching beaver on my river that I have that goes by my house, because they're knocking down all my trees, and I got to get rid of those rascally rodents, you know. But, you know, it's just, I mean, but that's who I am, and I have horses, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy that lifestyle. And it's about, you know, I think that being, you know, out there, and that to me, you know, we kind of used it as a term for, I'm a business cowboy to some extent too, because I just say it like it is, you know. Don't hold back, just say it like it is, you know. It's like, I tell a story in the book about two guys out hunting, and one of the guys is on a horse, and the other on the horse, and they're hunting grouse, and one of the new guy says, hey, typically when you're hunting grouse on a horse, you've got the dogs in front of you. When they find a bird, you get off the horse, grab your gun, tether your horse down, and then go over and shoot the birds. And the guy said, well, why? I'm tired of doing that. Why? He says, can I shoot off of this horse? And the other guy, who's very experienced, turns to him and says, sure, you can shoot off the horse. Well, the birds get up, and then he grabs his gun and he shoots off the horse, and the horse bucks him off. And he goes, I thought you told me I could shoot off the horse. I said, and say you could stop. So, you know, that's a little bit like, you know, putting it straight forward. You ask me the question, I'll tell you the answer, but you got to make sure you're asking the right questions.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of somebody that asks the right questions and tells it like it is, what was it like working with Donald Trump on The Apprentice?
Working with Donald Trump was a pleasure. I've liked him. I've worked with him for a number of years now. I've worked with him closer on the Miss USA, Miss Universe as well. But I worked with him closely on The Apprentice when I was a judge on The Apprentice for 3 seasons on the Celebrity Apprentice version, and he's a blast. He is who he is. I mean, he's exactly the way you see him. There's no difference. He understands the game. He understands it is a game, but at the same time, he's certain things on his own, is that Trump brand, and you got to respect that. And yes, his hair really does look like that, and it actually looks better in person.
Oh, that's good. Jeff, what are your future goals and plans right now?
Well, I mean, and ultimately we want to help businesses grow, so that's where we see taking our business, and we're continuing to grow it at triple-digit rates, and it's just been really great. We've got about 25 people on it, how we measure our growth, but we measure our growth in both in three things. I always have, no matter where I'm at. I measure it in terms of my revenue, in terms of growing revenue, growing profitability, and then growing customer satisfaction. Those are the three most important endeavors that we have. And those are mostly our goals and how to drive that for our company. I'm looking for things that continue to build wealth, and I love to have fun, and I love to grow professionally. And if I can do all those things along with my goals, that's where I want to take it. And so I really focus and keep it fairly simple on how we do things, and those are my major measurements for myself as well as for the business.
Well, that's great. Maybe kind of building off of that, Jeff, could you tell us, what would you tell aspiring entrepreneurs out there in the Generation Y age group? If you could tell them one thing, what would it be?
Do it. I tell people there's 10 rules for success. Number 1 is just do it. Number 10 is just do it, and they're all the same in between. If you've got something you think is going to work, make it happen and go do it and get it done. But you're going to have to commit to it and understand and be realistic about it as well. It might mean you're not going to take a salary. I mean, there are months in my businesses I've had to put more money into the business than I take out. And for the first few months, I remember I started up a tech company for a while, and for the first 2 years, I didn't take a salary out of a company. You have to be prepared for that. Now, is it easy? Can everybody do it? No. And, and I've had employees who've come to me and says, well, geez, why can't I make this kind of money? Or why can't I do it? And I said, are you willing to risk what I did? And if you're willing to risk those things and willing to take the chances that I have had in my life, then you're willing to reap the benefits. If you're not, then you should go get an hourly job and work it that way, or a different type of job that provides you security. Because being an entrepreneur is not an easy thing to do. It's a very tough thing to do, and that's why there might be a lot of them, but there's not a lot of there are a lot of successful ones, but my point is that in the numbers, there's a lot of people that fail before they get there. And if you haven't laid awake at night wondering whether you're going to make payroll the next day, then you haven't been an entrepreneur, and that's what it means to be an entrepreneur. But the success, the exhilaration, the things that you get from it and running your own operation far outweigh any kind of those bad nights or sweating in the bed nights that you might have to have, because you'll have them. And but that's what makes it. And again, remember, in the end, even if you fail or even you succeed, no one's going to die.
Absolutely. Jeff, I want to thank you so much. Jennifer, I really appreciate your time tonight. Sorry about the little technical difficulties we had, but nevertheless, some great advice.
Well, we do our best, and if there's anything we can do, make sure people follow me on Twitter at Jeffrey Hayzlett. See me on my website, hayzlett.com, or check out our newest book, Running the Gauntlet, and learn what it's like to run a battle and win a battle every single day for your business.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure to get that out on all of my networks as well. Again, guys, I really appreciate your time, and Happy New Year.
All right. Cheers, my friend.
Take care. Thank you. Well, that was Jeffrey Hayzlett, accompanied by Jennifer Fleming, his PR director from Tallgrass PR. I want to thank you guys for joining the program tonight, and I want to thank all of you for listening in. And, as I said, I apologize for the tech difficulties. You never know what's going to happen, some kind of, connection problems, or, you never know what's going to happen. But, we're glad we got the interview in. And as Jeffrey said, please make sure to check out his newest book, Running the Gauntlet. It's available on January 3rd, 2012. And please also make sure to pick up a copy of Entrepreneur Intervention, available for just 99 cents. Come on, less than a buck. And you're going to get advice from 28 remarkable entrepreneurs and small business owners spilling their guts and really telling you like it is, really talking about their triumphs, talking about their failures, and giving you motivation to succeed. And again, you can pick that up for your Kindle, for your Nook, and for your iPad. I hope you got one of those this Christmas. If you did not, you can always pick up the paperback version for just $9.99, and that's available at CreateSpace and Amazon. Again, I want to thank all of you tonight. I want to thank you for your time. And please check us out, financialbin.com. I'm Dave Domzalski, founder of the Financial Bin, host of the Financial Bin Radio. Take care.